Hello everybody, today we're going to look at the game of Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana. Magnus plays with the black pieces, he has 8 points out of 14, Fabi has 5, and he plays the Carucan defense, so that means he doesn't want to play e4, e5, slow game, he doesn't want to play crazy preparation in the Sicilian, he just wants a game where he's expecting to be a bit worse, but he thinks he still has a chance to win this game. So Fabi goes for a bit of a sideline, with the knight coming to this square, not to this square, but it's alright. Putting the knight here, disallowing this move c5. So normally we want to play c5, knight behind, putting pressure, but now you have to play the knight to this square to enable the move c5. Now he develops the other knight, a6, just stopping this bishop from coming to this square after you play this move. So now it's possible because otherwise the bishop would have come to this square, pinning the knight and trading off and then winning this pawn. So he defends with c3 and h6, just making a square for the bishop. And now he plays a bit of a weird move. Normally you want to keep the tension here, put pressure to the center, but he says no, I'm gonna kick your knight away, grab space, b4, b5 incoming. There he goes, b5. The knight moves back, looking to reroute. Want to play f4, knight to this square, taking the bishop. Magnus just develops his knight before his bishop. The knight comes to this square. The bishop drops back because he doesn't want to get it with this move. But now he plays f5, looking for f4 maybe, taking chess, opening up the rook towards the white king that's still in the center. And Magnus plays crazy move h5. It's like he says, I want to attack you, but it's weird because he doesn't have an attack at all, because all his pieces are like here, and this pawn isn't going to do anything, maybe after just simple g6. So you might say, isn't the pawn hanging? Yeah, if you do this, then you can take this knight, and after takes, you play. Oh, of course, I thought the idea was to play g6, get the bishop away, and have this very active rook, and now you can play this and get the queen out, looking for checkmate, and you have a very strong attack. But instead it's a much simpler tactic. If the bishop takes, you take the knight, taking the queen, and the queen is overloaded. So if it takes the bishop, we take the rook. So that's why he played g6 in the game. It's just, he doesn't want to allow this move. And now Magnus takes the knight. You might say, why would he give this powerful light squared bishop away for a knight that wasn't really doing anything? That's because it's a close position, so knights oftentimes are better in close positions, and he wants to play g6, so he would have blocked in his bishop, and because he doesn't have a light square bishop, all of his pawns are on the light squares. So normally you then want to trade that bishop off and keep the other one to keep control of the dark squares. So the knight comes to join the game. Magnus develops his knight to this beautiful square. Now he cannot play this move because it will always be captured. Bishop just develops, king comes up. Slow improving moves now. And now, good move. Opening up, you can take, because then I take with the knight and my rook really opens up with my bishop. So g5 is the move, keeping it close, taking the knight. But now the knight has this very nice anchored square, taking the rook. And you do not want to trade this knight for this bishop, because this knight is so much better than this bishop. This bishop is staring at a bunch of pawns, and this knight is controlling all these nice squares around the king. The bishop drops back because in the future he doesn't want to be a threat to take. And now b5, and you do not want to take, because then you get these pawns and they control everything. The rook opens up. This is just bad. So that's why he played queen back. And Magnus also just developed the queen. The rook moves to the third rank, defending the pawn. This rook goes to the b file for in the future when it opens up. Bishop drops back, just shuffling the pieces around. And now he wants to take this knight. So the knight moves to this other beautiful square in the center. This is maybe an even more beautiful square, because it's really controlling anything. But the bishop tries to take it, but now he plays knight h5, and Fabi just defends the rook. He could have taken maybe, and after d takes e4, I don't know, I would go for this, but I don't know why he didn't. He thought maybe there was too many counterplay with the rook coming to b7 and pressure on this with the queen coming to the b file, but I think it's good because now otherwise this knight would be way too active, but he just plays rook b1, anticipating the opening of the file, protecting the pawn in the future so the queen can move. And now he castles, defends the rook. You don't want to give the opponent the whole file. So that's also why Fabi didn't take, but now Magnus tries to play active with this move. There were better moves in this position. The best move was knight to b2, so jumping in with the knight, try to look at d square, attack the queen, but instead Magnus goes there with the rook, like that, putting pressure on the bishop. He wants to double, but Fabi just takes. A better move was rook a1, says the computer, but for every human this is better. The queen comes to put a bit of more pressure to this one. The rook comes to the b file, and now the knight takes this pawn. It is kind of a free pawn, but not because of the move that Magnus played. It is because of g5, and this is just opening up the position. The rook doesn't really have nice squares. If the rook moves here, you have knight to d3, getting all these active pieces, and it's just too much pressure. The rook will come in, the queen will get in the future maybe if this bishop moves. It's just too much pressure after g5, but it's a very hard move to spot, especially with 7 minutes on the clock. Also, Fabi thought 2.5 minutes on this move, so now it's 30 seconds, but he does have bonus time, so that's nice. Take, take, take. Fabi win a pawn, actually up 2 pawns now, but the rook comes in with check. The queen defends, so the queen will come in with check if you take. Knight comes back, and this pawn will be 2 squares away from queening if this pawn ever falls. But Fabi says, no, I'm going to attack you. The pawn gets there. Take, take. Crazy opening up the king like that, but you don't want to get open up like that because that destabilizes the structure. Now he takes, and he wants a queen trade. You do not take because this pawn will get way too strong. So you move the king back because it's okay if they take you, because then this pawn isn't that strong. The queen puts a bit of pressure over here with the knight, so the queen has to stay on this file. Oh, I'm very sorry, there was a mistake. We're almost there. Yeah, with the queen coming. So now he played this move, and the king goes up after the check. And Magnus just calls the bluff, takes the pawn, and runs his king all the way back to the center. But now Magnus wins this pawn with pressure on the knight. King moves up, queen goes back, putting pressure to the knight. Bishop blocks, and now he loses another pawn because the bishop is pinned. And again pressure on this one, and the threat is to take the pawn and then win the knight, but the knight comes back attacking the queen. I think knight takes this pawn is also fine, because now you still have the pressure. You're up, this pawn is protected by the bishop and the queen, and you are up 2 pawns. But that didn't happen. He just moved his knight back, also a reasonable move attacking the queen. And now the bishop comes in, putting pressure because this bishop is pinned. King moves up, check, bishop takes, queen takes, and the pawn has fallen. So now he is up 2 pawns with this very strong pawn. And after this move, Fabi just resigned because this will be checkmate. And you can try and run for it, but it will just end in a checkmate somewhere. It's pretty difficult, but this also just loses the knight. So that's why Fabi resigned in this position. Magnus also won the game, 8 out of 14 points. He played at 94.2 accuracy, very nice for a 25-minute game. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Like,